Your ideas help move this country. You are the American Innovator.
Hi everyone, Paul Akers, and welcome back to the American Innovator. A little unshaven here. Just got back from a 3-week trip to Dubai and also down to South Africa, Zambia, and Zimbabwe. And it was an awesome trip, and I learned so much. I can't wait to share everything I learned about Africa and about Dubai with the listeners, because I love life. It's an adventure for me. I love learning. I love understanding other cultures, the issues of other countries, and then forming reasonably good thought processes on why things are the way they are and how things can be improved and how I can improve. Kind of lean, if you know what I mean. And I'm fortunate enough that I get to travel to a lot of different countries. I think I'm up to about 43 countries now that I've been in. My goal is about 50 within the next year or so, 100 by the time I'm 100. So I have a little bit of traveling to do, and I just love people. I love cultures. I love interaction with other people. It fascinates me. It really makes me excited about life. So this trip to Africa was off the charts. I don't know how else to put it. It was so eye-opening. I learned so much. And my goal now is to do a series on Africa in my most recent travels. I'm actually going to be in Slovakia in just 3 weeks from now, if you can imagine that. Slovakia and Poland. I'm going there to speak on 2-second lean. So I'm doing a fair amount of traveling, but I want to focus on Africa, a little bit on Dubai in this next series, because I thought to myself, I'm 52 years old. I've never been to Africa before. I've always wanted to go to Africa. I didn't know if I'd ever be able to afford to go to Africa. And I thought there are probably other people that are in a similar situation like me. They just haven't been to Africa. Interesting place. Don't really know what it's like. So my goal in the video series is to literally transport you to Africa, to let you feel and experience what I saw through my eyes, and hopefully open up the world of Africa and the parts that I saw to our listeners. That's the goal. It's that simple. I want you to feel what I felt and learn, hopefully, what I learned. I'm going to do my very best to make that happen. It's not going to be easy. It's going to take a lot of time. I took thousands of photographs, leaned them all down to 400. So this first series you're going to watch right now is a result of thousands of photographs that I applied lean principles to. And I'll tell you what I did. So when you watch this photo video presentation right now, you're going to appreciate that I applied lean principles to it to get the result that you're going to see. So every day, all I did was take tons of photographs and videos with the same camera. Now, I got back to my room at night, I downloaded all those photos, and I looked at them all, and I simply got rid of or sorted through anything that was not A quality. So I simply asked myself this question: would I show this to someone when they say, wow? If the answer was not yes, I deleted it. And people go, yeah, that was a good photo. No. Were people going to say, wow, was it A quality? Now remember, I'm not a pro, I'm not a great photographer. I use a G12, a Canon G12, nice camera, about $400 or $500 camera. So when I got these photos, what I did was I simply went through them, and I used a principle that I learned from my eye doctor. You know when they go A or B, what's better, A or B? So I put 2 photos up on the screen. I go A or B. I just asked myself, A or B? B, better, delete A. A or B? A's better. Boom, delete B. And I whittled it down. And to be honest with you, at the end of the day, I usually had about 10 photographs. 1,000 photographs taken, only 10 worthy of showing you and keeping in my files. So my files of photographs are not cluttered. They're only premium photographs. And as a result, I did that every day, no batch work, right? And then at the end of the trip, simply pushed, create a slideshow presentation, added music, did a voiceover, and I was done. Literally the day I returned from Africa, the presentation you're watching was completed. No batch work. It was beautiful. It was applying lean principles, and it worked famously. I'm going to tell you 2 more stories to illustrate this point, because it's really interesting how you can apply lean to travel and everything else, because the whole time I was traveling, I was thinking about how do I make this process even better, more enjoyable. So when I was in Africa, we were with one of our ranger guides in Ngala, and he had a big old camera with a lens about that big, 600 millimeters, just massive. And he would take pictures only when he saw something really cool. Now, we were all over the place, right? But he occasionally pulled out this big gun and put it down. And then at the end of the day, we asked if we could see some of his photography. Now, he's been a ranger for 5 years, right? Had this camera for 5 years. And so he goes and gets his iPad and he pulls it out, and on his iPad are just 2 photo albums. One photo album was of his girlfriend, okay, and I think there were like 20 pictures in that one, and the other one was of wildlife shots. You know how many photographs were in the wildlife shots? Think about this. This guy has an iPad. We all have them. We have photo albums just pitch full of photographs, and he had 10 photographs in this album. That's it. That's all he had on his iPad. Now, I'm sure he had other photos, but there was something really powerful about what Dylan was about ready to do, and this was it. He opened that iPad, opened that folder, and he showed me 10 photographs of the wildlife that he had shot. And my wife and I and Cindy and Gordon sat there with our mouths open going, unbelievable. They were the most fantastic pictures I'd seen. As good or better than anything I'd seen on National Geographic. So imagine, 5 years in the bush, you probably get some pretty good photographs. But he deleted everything else. And the only thing he was willing to show me were 10 photographs. I thought, this guy's a lean thinker. Dylan gets it. You know, he doesn't clutter his life with a whole bunch of stuff. He only leaves on his desktop that which he needs to do his job. And his job was to convince me and to blow the world away that he had serious potential as both a ranger and a photographer. And I will tell this story forever. And Gordon and Cindy and my wife Leanne, we all looked at it and said, I've never seen photographs that good. They were spectacular on a level 1,000 times above what you're going to watch in this presentation right now. But the point, and it illustrates it so perfectly, is that you must apply, or no, you don't have to do anything because survival is not mandatory. It's really a good idea to apply sound, lean principles to photography, and it works really well. So enjoy this show. I'm going to continue a series every week. I don't know how long, maybe 5, 6, maybe 20 different series on Africa because I took fantastic videos. You're going to see a cheetah taking down a kudu. I filmed the whole thing. You're going to see outrageous lion pictures of a lion mating. I have just the best videos. You won't even believe them. I could go on and on. But anyways, that's what this series is going to be about Africa. And the title of one that you're going to watch right now is TIA, This is Africa. Enjoy. We'll see you next week on The American Innovator.
Hi, everyone. In 2012, Gordon and Cindy Crawford and Leanne and I made the trip of a lifetime to Africa. And we planned our entire trip with a company called And Beyond. And Beyond specializes in trips to Africa and India. And we really had no idea what to expect. We'd never been to this wild country of Africa. And I have to tell you that And Beyond exceeded all of our expectations. When we first arrived, one of the interesting things is there aren't any paved roads. This is truly out in the bush. And when we got out there the very first day, we took a walk with Barry, one of our guides, and we walked into the bush. And then this is James right here. He was our main guide for the 3 days we were at Pinda Forest. And we saw just the most unusual things. This is actually a hole for a wild boar. And we actually stuck the GoPro camera right inside. And one of the neatest things we saw right out the gate was a whole family of cheetahs. And we didn't take these with telescopic lenses. These cheetahs were all around the truck. And we sat there for well over an hour and just observed them. And it was really, wow, an experience you just don't think you could normally have, but we had it. And of course, after that, we took a nice little break right in the middle of the bush, right around all the animals, and we broke out the coffee. And we just had a wonderful time. It was relaxing, and it was an ability and a time to really just soak in nature and see nature at its best. You can see here just how close we were to these lions. And these lions put on quite a show. This male decided to mate right when we were there, and it happens very rarely. A whole pride of lions here. They're on top of an anthill, the highest position in the middle of this opening, so they had a good field of view of potential prey. And the sunsets were incredible, the clouds were incredible, and these lions, well, they just were checking us out, and we were checking them out. We sat there again for hours just watching them and watching their behavior, and it was just great. Then in the evening, the food fairies came and set up a nice little platter right in the middle of the bush. We were driving down the road, and voila, here's wonderful skewers of chicken and beef, and then some champagne and wine, and then back out the next day, and we saw hippos and just all kinds of beautiful exotic birds. And James took us on a walk into the bush. This was one of my favorite things to do, to just literally walk. And I wanted a little target practice, even though we never used the guns. They're always there just in case, because I wanted to make sure I knew how to shoot that gun in case something happened to James or to Barry. And he was really gracious and allowed us to learn how to do that. And again, just everywhere we looked, we saw fantastic scenery and animals. And we took our breaks. And this is the area in South Africa where we were. We were over in the eastern portion, and this is Max. She did a wonderful job with all the food and pinned it for us. And here's all the gang in our Jeep, and then James. And there were zebras everywhere. And this is a water monitor that was actually on the runway that James had to clear before we took off. And then from there, we went over to Ngala Tent Camp. And this is our actual tent. Pretty nice tent. And it's right on a riverbed. And again, this is just incredible. Just 3 months ago, they rebuilt this entire lodge because there was a flood. And they put it all back together, and just the creme de la creme, the highest in luxury and attention to detail. And the staff was off the charts and here at camp. And right out the gate, within a half hour of being there, we saw a leopard. And then we went and found the leopard that actually killed that impala and drug it up in the tree. And this is him right here. And he walked right by our truck going back to the impala because he became hungry again. He drug the impala out of the tree, drug it right by our car, and it stunk pretty bad, and then drug it back up a higher tree to make sure it was protected from the hyenas. And we watched this whole thing over the course of about an hour and a half. It was really surreal to see something. Just saw nature in its greatest state. And these are a lot of the impalas right here, and then more hippos and more elephants. And this elephant decided he wanted to take down this tree, and this was not a small tree. He just went up against it, started pushing on it back and forth. He's like a human excavator, like a living excavator. And he pushed over the tree, and then all the other elephants came in and ate everything. And this was my favorite tree. It's called an Anna tree. It was raining at the time. We took shelter underneath it and had our coffee, and then we stumbled across a couple more male lions just snoozing away. And the water buffaloes, they are awesome. And then hard to even comprehend, hyenas. You don't see them, they're very elusive, and we got to see this hyena up close and personal. I mean 20 feet from our truck, and at one point the babies actually walked right up to the side of the truck and they were suckling. So just every time we turned around, we saw something so special, and we were experiencing Africa really at its best. It's a watering hole where the elephants conjugated, and we just sat there for quite a while just watching their behavior and how they would suck up the water and play with it, and the flora and fauna. It's just off the charts. Everywhere you turn, there's impalas, and the trees really, for me, were a big deal. The trees in Africa are just beautiful. This Anna tree is interesting because it blooms in the wintertime and loses its leaf in the summertime. And this is a black-back jackal, and this is a leopard tortoise. And then after 3 days in Ngala, we got on a plane, a private little plane, then flew to our next stop in Zambia, and then over to elephant camp in Zimbabwe. And it didn't take long before we were treated again to something so special. This is Sylvester, the cheetah, full-grown cheetah, about 18 months. And you're actually allowed to touch this animal. It's just something. And then they told us, after we got to kind of see it and be with it on the deck, they said, you know, we're going to go on a walk early in the morning at 6 in the morning. If you'd like to go with us, we let Sylvester off the leash and allow Sylvester just to go out in the wild and do what he does, and we can follow along. Of course, he's always running ahead of us, but I went ahead at this opportunity and took the iPole and did some great filming of Sylvester. This is just a warm-up little picture disc that I put together, because all the video I have is just spectacular of all the footage of everything we saw on this trip. But this just gives you an idea. Sylvester got a little ornery with that kudu, but the kudu was fine, and he got up and ran away. But this cat was, wow, powerful and interesting, and I just got to be right with it the whole time. And then this massive tree, well over 1,000 years old. Look at it compared to the other trees. And then the indigenous people were singing, and we got right in there with them and sang with them. They were just powerful and had wonderful deep timbre in their voice. And this is Victoria Falls, one of the largest falls in the world. It's both on the Zambia and Zimbabwe side, and we walked along it, and the water just drenches you from the water that's in the air that comes down. And it was just, again, another beautiful day, spectacular flora and fauna everywhere. And we met Rachel from New Zealand, and she hiked along with us, and that was great. And the falls are really something. We went in October, so they're a little dry, which is actually a good time because you can see them. When you go in the springtime, when there's so much water, you can barely even see the falls. And this is a typical hotel that's just absolutely stunning from the colony days. And this is I forgot the name of the tree, an outrageous tree, I think it's called, but just beautiful. Flamboyant tree is what it's called. And then Gordon and I at Elephant Camp decided to go on real elephants on a real safari into the savannah and into the woods, and we just had just a great time. There's Elephant Camp in the background, and this is where they keep the elephant. So we went on a 1-hour trek through the woods, and just great. When we got back, Sylvester was there to greet us again. We got a few more pictures with him, and he is just one awesome cat. And then on to Cape Town. And our first day, we had the day off, and we found a place called Green Street Market, and it was just incredible. All the food and all the people and the festiveness. People always told me that one of their favorite cities in the world, everywhere I travel, is Cape Town, and I know why. Cape Town is a beautiful city in a beautiful setting. They call it the Jewel of Africa. It's just stunning. The people are friendly, they're happy. It's just a nice climate. Everything about it is just very, very special, and I know why Cape Town's so special. So these are actually the unemployment lines. They definitely have an unemployment problem. And these are the townships. And we actually got to walk through and tour some of the townships so we could see some of the things that were going on in Africa. Because, you know, Africa has quite a history. And yet I don't really sense any bitterness. People are working together to build a better future. We'll talk about that more in some of the videos, because I did some great interviews with people just to understand the mindset of the South African people. But they're moving ahead, and it's encouraging to see that. Even though these conditions are really rough, we want to show the good, the bad, and the ugly, if you will. But we actually even visited a little preschool here, and the children were just wonderful. They were excited to see us, and we sang with them. They took the eye pole. We just had a great time, just really learning. I'd say one thing about this trip is we learned about South Africa. This is really an amazing country with amazing people, and everyone should experience it. And then after that, we went up the world famous Table Mountain, this fantastic mountain that sits flat above Cape Town, about 4,000 feet high. And we took a tram all the way to the top and had breathtaking views. And you can see how the clouds are just swooping right over the top of it. It develops its own weather system when you're at the top. And we waited till sunset just so we could get these spectacular pictures before we came down. Just about 7 o'clock was the last tram, and I was the last one out. Does that surprise you? And the next day we took a drive along Cape Hope, and that was down to the southernmost tip of Africa to see where the two oceans meet, the Indian Ocean and the Atlantic Ocean. When we went down there, they were actually filming a music video on one of the little turnouts, and we saw the two actors with their Shelby Cobra there, and they were just about ready to shoot the video. And then this is a great classroom that went down to Cape Hope to take their pictures, and this is the bottom part of Africa. And then we went over to the Boulders, which is a penguin little sanctuary, and it was beautiful as well. And then out to Cape Point, again, the southernmost point of Africa. We got some great pictures. We had fantastic weather everywhere we went. And then we went to this botanical garden that was right in Cape Town. It has such a diversity of plants, probably more than anywhere else in the world. More flora, fauna, and different kinds of plants than anywhere in the world, just in this bottom region of South Africa. This little girl was getting her picture taken by her mom, and the next day on to the wine country. And I don't know what to say. It couldn't get better, but it just kept getting better. So we visited several wineries, and we started drinking wine at 9 in the morning. I was delirious. By about 10 o'clock, I couldn't drink anymore. And some of the local artists, and we went to where Nelson Mandela's final prison was released, which was out in the wine country area. And we visited that, and Gordon and Cindy and myself and Leanne. And we were so tired, we had to lay down underneath the tree and take our picture. And we met Leila from Brazil, and she was wonderful too. She was a great sport, hanging out with us. She thought we were crazy. So then another vineyard we visited. Look at these two owls in broad daylight right here in this little church. It was on Sunday, and Then we went to this winery, which is really, again, very special, set against these mountains. And we had a tour of how they make the wine using the different kind of oak barrels, oak from France, as well as oak from the United States. And I passed out. I drank so much in one day, I couldn't believe it. I'm the lightweight. Look at this gorgeous bird too. And the vineyards just stretch out everywhere. And then this is an early morning picture of Cape Town. And now, shark diving. This was off the charts. So the next day we loaded up and drove 2 hours even further down around the Cape, where the largest concentration of great whites in the world are. And we just jumped into a cage and we encountered the sharks just a couple inches from us, and they chum form. This is the chum material they put into the water to attract all the white sharks. And I got great video, which you're going to see in some of our later videos. And then we went out to a little seal habitat, and this is where the largest concentration of seals are, right by where the sharks are. No wonder, that's what the sharks feed on. And then we drove back around the coast, and the scenery is just breathtaking. South Africa, I know why people rave about this country. It has so much beauty, and the people are so friendly, and the food is spectacular. And we just had our final dinner at a great little restaurant, a traditional restaurant in South Africa, and I was exhausted, as I always am after I eat. And then the very last day, right before we're ready to fly out, we go to Robben Island to visit the prison that Nelson Mandela spent approximately 17 years in, overlooking and looking back at Cape Town. And this is a little garden where he worked. This is his actual prison cell. Gordon's just about ready to move in front of it and take a picture. And this is the garden where he stored his manuscript. And this is sunrise in Cape Town. I did this quick little time-lapse video just to show the natural beauty. And this is Africa. We learned this saying called TIA. Whenever we would ask a question about Africa, they would say TIA. What does that mean? This is Africa. Some things can only be explained by saying, this is Africa. Enjoy many videos to come.
The American Innovator has been brought to you by FastCap. To hear more, just go to theamericaninnovator.com.